I going through this? Like, I'm a good person. I have a good heart. Like, you know.
Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel and also hit the notification bell, which is on the side of the subscribe button. And last but not least, you guys, chat it up with me in the comment section down below. You guys know that I love talking to you. Today, you guys, we are going to do a story time about when I lived in a homeless shelter. So without further ado, you guys, let's get straight into this video. To share this story with you guys, mainly because I feel like it's a super powerful testimony, and I feel like this was a really difficult time during my life, but as God brought me out, I realized the reason and the purpose I had to endure and why I went through what I went through. You know, a lot of times when we are in situations, I can attest that sometimes we just feel like God isn't present. It feels like God doesn't care. It feels like God is just, you know, sometimes it just feels like he's not there. And it seems like he doesn't care. And it's like, you know, a lot of people ask, God, why would you allow this to happen to me when their family members die, when, you know, when they lose their jobs, when they don't have any money? Like, you know, like a lot of times people always are asking God, like, why would you allow this to happen to me? Or they'll say, if you serve such a good God, why he allow you to be homeless and living in a homeless shelter? Like, at the end of the day, because we serve the Lord, it doesn't make us exempt from things that everybody goes through. Because at the end of the day, when I was in the world, I went through things. And I never once was like blaming God, but it's funny how like when you get on God's side, sometimes you tend to think that, oh, because, you know, you give your life to Christ, that all troubles just magically disappear and you don't go through things. But that's furthest from the truth. You have to go through things, but these things actually help to draw you closer. They help to produce character. They give you strength. They really, like, honestly, I used to be very resentful and very mad that I had to go through in the life that I had to live. But looking back at it, and the person that it made me, it's like I would have never been this person had I not went through and lived the life that I had to live. So I have video footage and pictures and stuff to like insert as I'm going along with this story time. So I'll start off with the backstory of it hasn't been a long time since I just gave my life to Christ, and I thought, like, I knew I needed God. I knew I needed a change. I knew that I was tired. I was tired mentally, physically, everything. I was just tired, you know? And so I had given my life to Christ, and literally all hell broke loose. A lot of people that give their life to Christ, they say, like, you know, God answers their prayers. Things just happen for them. Doors open. And that never was my case. Like, I never got it just like super easy, or doors was opening when I asked God for stuff. Like, soon as I gave my life to Christ, like all hell literally broke loose. Like, if you guys want to know the story time of me living, I lived in probably 5 to 6 houses in a year span, and I'm not kidding. Like, being put out of here, put out of here, put out of here, put out of here, just all through that. So this is in the time where I am like close to the end of, I just got put out of, you know, the kids' grandmother's house. Then I was living with my friend, and she put me out of her house just like out of nowhere, you know? Like, and this is a time where I'm getting closer to God, and I'm drawing closer to God, and I'm like understanding his word a little bit more. I wasn't fully in. I'm just a new Christian. It's like I was like a baby to Christ, you know? And I had to live in a homeless shelter. I had nowhere to go. I didn't have a car, anything. And so when my friend put me out, I went to go stay with my evangelist at my church. I went to stay with her, but the way it was is that she had an upstairs apartment, and I had two little kids, and they were running and bumping in. Basically, the manager knows that she doesn't have any little kids, and she kept getting complaints from the downstairs neighbors. So I couldn't stay there too long, like she got complaints, And so I had to go to a homeless shelter. And when I tell you guys, like, this situation really broke me all the way down, because I felt like, how did I get so low in life that I have to live in a homeless shelter? Like, and I thought that God hated me. I thought that God really didn't like me. Like, I felt like that, like God did not care about me, because like, how could you care about somebody and you see them trying to serve you, and you see them really pushing to have a change in their life, and now they're living in a homeless shelter, like a legit homeless shelter. And I'm gonna get into it. I'm gonna tell you, so the first night that I actually got there, I cried. I remember there was basically the homeless shelter that I was in is, we basically went from church to church on Monday through Thursday, and then Friday we stayed there because the actual shelter was too small to house everybody that was homeless. Of course, because there's women, there's children, there's men, there's a whole bunch of people. So the first night I got there, I sat in the sanctuary and I cried. Like, I literally just cried and cried. I could not stop crying. I wanted to stop because I didn't want these people seeing me. And I just was like, it was so many emotions. I'm like, how did I get so low that I'm living in a homeless shelter? And the second night, I cried all night. I didn't talk to anybody. The thing is, we wake up. It was kind of like, if you ever been in jail, you wake up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and then you have to clean up, the place that housed us, that gave us food for the night, which is the churches. We slept inside of church sanctuaries. So basically, you get up at 5, we clean up all our mess, and we fold up, pack the chairs, and basically so we clean up after ourselves. They give us somewhere to sleep, and we clean up after ourselves. So we would wake up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. Now, mind you, Heavenly at the time was 2 years old. Denia at the time they're 4 years. Denia was 6. So my kids were really little, and the embarrassment that came with that is like, how as a mother are you living in a homeless shelter with your kids? Like, it was embarrassment. I felt shame. I felt like completely abandoned, because I'm like all my friends just turned on me, and no family, no nothing. I didn't have anybody. I just had my kids. So we wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. We slept on mats. It kind of reminded me of jail, just like a big jail. The only difference is like the men were closer to us, even though we would make a line with the chairs. So the men would be on one side and the women would be on the other side. But it's similar to jail, like the hours that we woke up, the mats on the floor, and all that. So I had my blankets. All of our clothes we kept in this shed thing, which I'll get into a little bit later. All of our clothes we kept in like this shed like thing. And so because you can only carry like a bag of clothes and blankets, like they didn't want you carrying around a whole bunch of stuff. So everybody had a bin, and if you couldn't fit all your stuff in that bin, then you're just out of luck, So I had to put all of our things, between me, my kid, belongings inside of the bin in the shed. And basically they said it was protected, which I'll get into that a little bit later. So anyways, let's get back to first night. I cried my eyes out. Second night, I cried my eyes completely out. And this particular night, I had went to the bathroom, and there was another young mother, and she had about 4 kids. She had a van, so like she would let me and my kids sit in the van because we didn't have nowhere to go. Like there's nowhere to go. Like, and the way that it worked is you slept there, but during the day you cannot be there at all, and then you have to come back, I think, but at 5 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock, I can't remember the exact times. So sometimes she would let us ride around in her van or sit in her van or sleep in her van during those times. And so this particular night, I'm like bawling my eyes out. I go to the bathroom because I cannot stop crying, like, because I am like so broken down and so just, I felt this is the loneliest I've ever felt in my life. And so she came into the bathroom, and she told, like, I came out of the stall and she startled me, and she told me, and I'll never forget this. She told me, if you cry and your kids see you broken down, they will be broken down. But if you hold your head up high and you just get yourself through each day and you just go through it strongly, and then your kids will be happy. They only see what you show them. And that, she was like an angel from God. Like, that touched me so much. From that day forward, I made up in my mind that I just gotta suck it up. Like, I gotta smile. I gotta be happy. I want my kids to just be happy. And from that day forward, I promise you, my kids used to think like it was like a big slumber party because all the kids got to play. They ran back and forth on the mats and things like that. But it wasn't like a super, for me as an adult, knowing what you're actually going through. It is not a joyous time. It was not, but for my kids, I'm glad that they got to enjoy and have fun, and, like, they didn't look at it like that. But so to go back into it, we slept on mats and all that stuff, and we were there for a year. Eventually, later on down the line, I ended up getting before I ended up getting a car, I used to have Heavenly in a stroller, and we would walk to, because the place wasn't far from the mall, so we would go to the mall because the mall opened early in the morning, just so we can get out of the cold, because we had nowhere to go. Once again, we had no car, we had we had nothing. So we would go to the mall, and there was like this family area where they had TV, so they could watch cartoons if they wanted to, because obviously inside of the churches, they didn't have TV. It's not like we're living, luxury. We were just, surviving. So there is certain churches that had like a projector screen, and then they would do movie nights, but it was like this, I think it was like 2 churches that did that. Other than that, it's either you have your tablets, give your kids the phones, and stuff like that. So we would literally walk to the mall like 5 o'clock in the morning. I know the mall opened probably like at 7 or so. So we would go to the mall and sit there in the family waiting area, and the kids would be able to watch cartoons. And I was just so like broken down, but I had to keep it together. And then, like, how in some malls, like, they have the little kids play area. So I let my kids play there. Or sometimes if we got tired of that, we would go to the library, and at the library, they'd have days where you could read books with the dogs and stuff like that. So I tried to find things to do to keep them occupied. And then it came to a point where I ended up getting a car because tax time had came around. And so I'm still in the shelter, and I was able to buy a car. So my oldest daughter, she had to go to school, and it used to be a lot of the teachers, used to get really frustrated, but I didn't want to tell them that we didn't have nowhere to live, because my daughter would be falling asleep in class because we're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And then we would go sit in my car and I would find streets to park on, and it's freezing cold. It's freezing, legit freezing cold. And I would literally park my car and I would turn on the heater for as long as I could. I didn't want to keep my car running, and then I would let them cover themselves up with jackets, and they would sleep in the back seat until it was time for my daughter to go to school, like at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I would drive her to school, and then from there, me and my other daughter, we would just sit in the car, ride around, go to the park, things like that, just stuff to try to keep our time occupied. And at times I would be sitting in the park, I'd be reading my word, I'd be talking to God, even though I felt like God was like really angry with me, because I didn't know God for real, and I didn't know, like, it was new to me. So, but I knew that something in there just allowed me to know, like, I needed God regardless of the fact. So I would pray, I'd read my word, and and so at first I was angry, and then I was very sad, and then I felt like God didn't love me, and I went through all of this, and something in there just switched. Like, I always went to church, so I would, like, they would have like little devotionals and things like that when we got to the places. When we went to different places, they would give us a word of encouragement and things like that. Before we would eat, we would pray and stuff like that. We would have like little Bible study, but I was still heavily involved in my church. So it was so amazing. The staff was really amazing to me, because they basically would let me go to church. Like, they only let you leave, like, if you had work, then you were able to leave at night. You can't leave under any circumstances or you would get kicked out. But I know it was nothing but God, because they knew how much, like, God meant to me. So they would let me go to church, and they would tell me, like, right after church, you come right here. So I would go to Bible study, I would go to prayer. I was still like going to church. Like, I was living in a shelter. I went to my church picnics. I went to car washes. We had car washes for my church. I was very heavily active in church. Like, I don't know. I just felt like I just needed an outlet, and I felt like church was just the best thing for me. So that's what I did. And so finally I ended up getting my voucher. And I was so super happy, so super excited. And before this happened, I went to the shed one day, and all of my clothes were gone. Like, all of my clothes were gone, and I was livid. Like, my kids had Jordans and things, because we never was in that situation before. They had nice coats, nice like, I kept my kids up. Like, I've always kept my kids up. Even when we were living in a homeless shelter, I would do their hair. There was this little girl, this cute little girl, and her mom didn't know how to do hair, so I do her hair as I did the girls' hair. I get the little bow reds and the rubber bands. So before it was bedtime, I would sit and do each of, do their hair and stuff like that. I knew that I felt like I was gonna come out of it. I felt like that it was just temporary for me, but for some of those people, like, that's all they really had and all they really knew. And so for me, something in there just kept saying, like, this is just a temporary thing. So once my clothes had came up missing, I was like so furious. And then I found out because I seen this lady and her daughter was in my kids' clothes, and I'm not gonna lie, I went up to her and I started to go off, and God shut me up right then and there, because it's like, she doesn't have anything. You know what I mean? Like, she didn't have anything. So I had to take it up. I had to suck it up. All my stuff was like literally gone. All the stuff that we had left was the stuff that I kept in the car, because I had so much stuff, like so much clothes, so much, And so we just used the stuff that we had in the car. I let that situation go or whatever. So I went around and looking for different places, and I was getting no's and no's and no's, and I finally came to this place, and I just loved it so much. I still like, I'm so like, that's the house where my boyfriend got killed, so I couldn't stay there anymore. But I really love that place. I probably would have lived there for like forever, because it was like such a dream. Like, so, you know, I ended up getting the call. They told me I got the place. And I was super excited. You know, like, I gave my testimony at church. I'm like, I got my place. Like, we shouted, like I had the Holy Ghost. Like, I was so super excited. Like, it was just like, I got my place. But that's not even it. That's not even it. Let me tell y'all, with that house, everything was paid for.
Also, right before Christmas, we got so many presents.
I didn't pay for anything except for my couch and my kitchen table. When I tell you, everyone from the church chipped in. I got microwaves, crock pots, like brand new flat inch TVs. Like, one of the girls from my church decorated my whole bathroom. The other girl did the girls' room, bunk beds. Like, I got a $500 Visa gift card. I got Sears gift cards. I got like when I tell you, like, the overflow, like, I didn't, and mind you, I'm living in a homeless shelter. I didn't have nothing. You know, all I thought was like, okay, well, we're just gonna sleep on the floor. I don't care. I got my own house. You know, like, I finally get to, you know, cook in the kitchen, and I finally get to, like, not have to wake up so early in the morning and be freezing cold and laying in the car and finding somewhere to drive around to. Like, I was so happy. That's when it really hit me that all that I went through, it was for the bigger setup. God knew what he was doing already. He already had everything lined up. The lady that ended up giving me the $500 gift card, I didn't even know anything about it. She went around her job and she just said, hey, can you donate to this girl that goes to my church? Like, she just got her house, and everybody chipped in at her job and ended up, you know, giving me a $500 Visa gift card, which I was able to buy my kids bunk beds with, and, you know, just other stuff. Like, I didn't have to pay for anything, you know. I didn't have anything at all but a car, and my whole house was fully furnished. Like, it was so beautifully, like, it's like my bedroom, every single thing that I tell you that I wanted, I got, and more, you know. And so I say all that to say this, that sometimes we go through things and we feel like God isn't there. We feel like, God, like, why would you let this happen to me? Like, why would you, you know, but in that, like, my faith increased, in that, like, I got closer to God, in that it helped me to be before God's face day and night, sitting in my car and praying and asking God, like, God, can you please, I really did not want to cry this whole video. Like, God, can you please, like, take me out of this? And not knowing, like, I needed to go through that. I needed to go through that because it helped me to appreciate a lot of stuff. And I blessed a lot of people. There was a woman who ended up writing this beautiful letter, and she was like 50 years old. She never was homeless before. I never was homeless before. And she was scared and she was afraid. And her daughter didn't know that she was homeless, you know? And so she ended up writing me the letter, and she left me this big comfortable blanket, which I kept, and my kids was able to sleep, like, because we used to be so cold, we had these thin blankets or whatever. But she left me a big blanket and a note, and she was just saying, because of me, I brought her closer to God. Like, and then so many women, like the girls, you know, whose daughters, she couldn't do her hair. Like, I was able to help them. Like, I used to be so frustrated. I would wake up and, like, we had Wednesday morning prayer with my church, and I'd be walking through there, like, on speakerphone, and everybody knew not to play with me. So this phone is on speakerphone. Y'all about to listen to this prayer, because y'all up in here, like, it used to be, you know, I know everybody was just frustrated for the living situations that they was in, but it used to be, like, it used to be fights. It used to be all type of stuff, because everybody's frustrated, you know, like you know what I'm saying? Like we're in this situation. So all in all, like in that, I learned that like regardless of what I go through and whatever you go through, it might look like it's the worst of the worst because I was at the lowest of the low, you know? And through that, like I drew closer to God and I really got to have like a deeper relationship with God. And I began to understand that in this world that there is going to be trouble. That's what he said in his word. It's going to be trouble. It's going to be trials. It's going to be tribulations. But he said to take heart that he's overcome. And if he overcame it, he gave us the power to do it too, you know? So anybody that's out there and you might be struggling right now, you might be at your lowest point, and it don't have to be that you have to be in a shelter, but you might be at your lowest point and you feel like God don't love you. And I'm crying because I'm back at another low point, but I just had to pull myself together to make this video. And it's like, you might feel like God don't love you. You might feel like, God, like, why am I going through this? Like, I'm a good person. I have a good heart. Like, you know, it's all for a bigger purpose. Like, you're not going through things just because God hates you. You're not going through things because he doesn't love you. Like, that's so furthest from the truth, and that's what the enemy wants you to know. But sometimes we have to go through things to make us stronger, to, like, you know, build our faith, to help us to continue to rely on God, to help us to trust in God. And I'm just having a hard time right now, you know, like, and I think that God put that story on my heart to remember, like, I got you through some stuff before, so I got you, you know? And I just say to anybody that's going through things, you know, like, just know, like, God really got you. Like, he really loves you. It's not your fault that things happen. It's just life. Things happen in life, you know? And but don't ever give up on God. You know what I'm saying? Don't ever start being disrespectful to God or hating God, because it's not what you think. Like, God will turn that whole thing around, and he will turn your mess into a message. He'll turn your test into a testimony. He will give you the strength that you need. But sometimes we just don't want to rely on God. And I know, like, right now it's like I'm not putting my faith in him and my trust in him. And I think that's what's making it harder for me to get through. And, you know, because I don't understand what's going on, and I want to fix it. And I know I can't fix it, that he has to fix it. And I know he wants me to give it to him. So I just, you know, I pray that this touches once again whoever is supposed to touch. And I just pray that you just put your trust in God, put your faith in God, because, like, I'm telling you, it will look so crazy and you will feel like I am never going to get through this. And you get through it and you are rejoicing and everything's going good, and then boom, you're going to go through some more stuff. But then you can reflect on the time that he brought you through that first time, and the time before that, and the time after that, and the time after that. So I thank you guys for watching. I love you guys. Like, I appreciate you guys. And don't forget to, you know, share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff.